It's hard to beat that satisfying feeling of going to your shop or job site on that first cold morning of the season, firing up your old Torpedo heater, and hearing this. At the same time, what can be more frustrating than really needing to warm up your workspace in a hurry and getting something like this? Well, if these little heaters are giving you a tough time, you're in the right place. Today we're going to look at the basic principles of their operation, preventive maintenance and common repairs, and finally some tuning tips to keep your heater at peak performance for years to come. All this right now here on Shop Tales and Lore. If you're a serious do-it-yourselfer or home workshop enthusiast looking for a variety of helpful content in one place, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell to be notified whenever we release a new video. And if we've helped you today, please take a moment to like, share, and comment below. It helps these videos reach more folks, and your comments help others as well. Thanks again. There's a lot to like about direct-fired forced air heaters. They're fast, efficient, fairly inexpensive to operate on commonly available fuels, come in a wide range of output ratings for just about any application, and unless abused or fed a diet of bad fuel, they're remarkably dependable. Just remember that even though the combustion takes place inside an enclosed firebox or plenum, these heaters still produce a large, high-velocity flame and should not be used in an unventilated area or around flammable materials or vapors. For example, you don't want to be spraying lacquer in your shop and then switch on one of these. That would make for a very bad day. Let's do a quick walk around and look at some of the features and controls that are found on many of these. Propane models are available, but more commonly these are designed to burn kerosene stored in an onboard tank. We have used the modern clean-burning highway diesel fuels in this unit for many years with great results, and it's generally available at a fraction of the cost of K1 grade kerosene. Do your own research and use common sense before using any fuel other than what is recommended by the manufacturer of your heater. Never ever use highly volatile fuels like gasoline. While we're on the topic of fuels, always check the condition of your tank and fuel before doing other troubleshooting. Old or contaminated fuel is often the problem, not the heater itself. Check the fuel for any moisture content. If water is present, it will collect in droplets at the bottom of the tank and be plainly visible. You may need nothing more than a tank cleaning and fresh fuel to get your heater going again. If the fuel is fresh and clean, then pop the hood to get a closer look at your heater's operation and major components. In this case, the top cover is held in place with a few small sheet metal screws on each side. While propane versions obviously supply their own fuel pressure, kerosene models typically use an air pump mounted at the back of the fan motor to produce low compressed air pressure, usually around 3 to 5 psi, depending on the size of the unit. When pushed through this hose and a small manifold behind the fuel nozzle, this air pressure moves at a high velocity over the end of the secondary line leading from the fuel tank, basically using the Venturi effect to create a vacuum or a negative atmospheric pressure in the fuel line, which in turn draws fuel up from the tank to the nozzle. When the heater is switched on, this hot surface igniter is activated to start burning the air-fuel mixture once that mixture reaches the burn chamber. Some models use an automotive spark plug for this same purpose. Either way, the igniter's role is to provide an initial ignition source, much like the glow plugs in a diesel engine. If the air-fuel mixture stops burning for some reason, this photocell comes into play. As long as it sees a flame in the burn chamber, everything continues to work normally. But if this device cannot see a flame, it shuts down the motor and air pump so that raw fuel doesn't continue to enter through the nozzle. Sometimes the lens in the photocell gets blocked by dirt, dust, or debris to a point that it stops functioning as intended. It may just need a light cleaning with something soft like a Q-tip to get things going again. To change the filters, start by removing the rear pump cover. Inside you'll find actually three filters. The thicker one on the right is the intake filter. It cleans the air that enters the pump. The one on the left is the discharge filter, and it cleans the pressurized air going from the pump to the small manifold at the rear of the discharge nozzle. This one is actually a two-stage filter that uses a small foam filter that presses into the little square recess behind it. That's all the disassembly necessary to replace these two air filters, but let's go a little further and remove the air filter housing so you can get a look inside the air compressor that's at the back of the motor. Notice how the pump rotor is offset in its housing. This allows these free-floating vanes to drop down, compress a small amount of air that flows through the filter housing up to the discharge nozzle manifold, and then retract as the rotor nears the top of its travel. If these vanes become stuck with dirt or oil in the compressor chamber, they won't be able to move freely, and the pump will not make enough air pressure to run the heater. Before installing the new filters, let's replace the air filter housing. There are no gaskets between this housing and the motor. These surfaces are milled to flange up without any kind of additional seal. This is a typical replacement filter kit. This one includes the 3 air filters and 1 fuel filter that are specific to this heater. First, we replace the small foam secondary filter on the discharge side. Next is the primary discharge filter. Tighten the cover screws evenly, making sure that the gasket seals firmly against both the housing and the plastic cover. Note that we're leaving out the foam intake filter for now. This is to keep it from getting caught under the discharge filter gasket, which can prevent the compressor from building up enough air pressure. Once the cover is secure, install the intake filter, tucking it into the opening in the cover. Now let's make sure the air pump pressure is dialed in correctly. We know from the heater's data plate that the proper pump pressure is 5.3 psi. And yes, this can be approximated from the color of the heated combustion chamber nose cone and other Kentucky windage methods, but for maximum efficiency and fuel economy, why not invest a few bucks in a low pressure gauge and get this adjustment exactly right? I think this one was less than $15 on Amazon. By the way, the pressure adjusting screw, at least on this model, is to the right of the testing port. Remove the plastic plug from the testing port and replace it with your gauge, adding appropriate fittings if necessary. I think the port threads on this one were standard 1/4-inch pipe, but be sure and check yours to avoid damaging the plastic threads in the pump cover. Now start the heater and check the gauge. The top cover does not need to be in place for this test. In this case, our pump pressure is low by a couple of pounds, so we'll turn the adjustment screw clockwise until we hit 5.3 psi. Be sure to check your owner's manual or data plate for the correct pressure setting for your heater. Here's what a tuned heater's flame should look like. No smoke or soot, with the combustion chamber baffle or nose cone glowing bright red around its perimeter and just a little duller red at the center. In case you're wondering, I decided against changing the fuel filter this time around for a couple of reasons. First, I know there is minimal trash in the old filter because we strain the fuel before adding it to the tank. Second, this heater is 20 years old, and some of the rubber and plastic parts are starting to get a little brittle. The filter is a press fit into this grommet in the top of the tank, and I was a little concerned about damaging the grommet. So I'll pick up a replacement grommet and change the filter another time. Hey, thanks for watching. Hopefully we've touched on a tip or two that will help keep your heater in top shape and make those cold winter days and nights in your shop more enjoyable. Be sure and let us know in the comments about your experiences maintaining and repairing these forced air heaters.